let's continue with our second pass layer and just finalize a little bit more on the neck here, where we're going to bring these shapes a little bit more in line with what we have here. Start to work these in. And let's continue now and move to the body and start to look at these shapes that we can see around here. We've definitely got these folds of skin here radiating outwards towards the center of the torso. We've got some sharper folds here on the shoulder. And it feels as if on here there's kind of like a bony mass inside of this area. So we might just pull this out a little bit more to represent that. Maybe going down a little bit here. Move our light source around. Let's move back to the body. There's some tighter folds just under this front arm here, which we probably will be working on in a further pass. But what I like here are these extra little grooves here, which I'll try to replicate just to give me a clue later where those are. So just softening and smoothing the top edge of those additions that I've just made and leaving the underside a little bit more coarse. Let's work this a little bit more here. Just feels as if it needs a little bit more muscle mass intersecting with this fold here, causing that crease. So as you can see, I'm jumping from area to area, just trying to not focus on anything in one particular area. It's very easy to fall into that trap. And let's continue. These are quite large surfaces here, so there isn't that much detail that we can add on here, but we do want to continue those radiating folds that we can see on there. We just want to just push that a little bit more as we lead up to this back leg. Let's try and link this little ridge that I created before, and you can see that the strokes that I'm making they're not drawn strokes like we were doing over here. These are more like tapping the surface of the mesh here and just making small dabs as we go, just trying to keep things as loose as I possibly can. remembering that area there where the spines are. So we don't want to go too crazy around that area. Let's smooth that out. It's beginning to look very blocky, so let's just smooth over. So there'll be certain things like here I can see these sort of pieces that come around. That's worth just identifying. And again, you can see that concentration of polys in here due to putting more topology in there at the modeling stage. I've got much more topology in here, which is causing a lot of high density detail being formed here, whereas here I haven't got that many polygons, so it looks very blocky when I'm putting this in here. So let's work on the back part of the leg here. Let's just save what we've done, and we'll move over to the back part of the leg, and I'm going to go across, because if we look at the leg here, it feels as if our brush stroke should be going horizontal. So let's mimic that, and we'll get a little bit closer to our reference by doing it. And we come down to the knee here, where we got these folds over the knee and this skin area here. Just remember that this image that we are working from is actually an AI image. It's not very accurate. It's just giving us an impression of the dinosaur and a rough concept to work from. So a lot of the folds and anatomy are not correct. I'll just undo those two bridges of skin that I created there. It was a little bit, that's not really looking at the reference, and just me putting in what I wanted to do. So let's remove that and just try to mimic this a little bit closer to the reference. Just going to jump back over to the neck area here, because these folds here on the neck go quite a way back, and I think I've stopped a little bit too soon on here, so let's just move these a little bit further back into the body for now, just to remind me at that later detailing stage that I need to follow these through. And as we can't see the top, I'm just going to kind of make that area up there myself. So even though I started off in this neck region, this very sharp detail that we can see here is something that I'd like to try even at this low resolution. I'd like to try to sort of emulate that a little bit more by decreasing the brush size and just tapping over here just to bring that little bit of detail in. I will smooth it out. It's very rough at the moment, but there's enough there for me to understand what I was trying to do when I come back to this later. And each one of these large folds here, when I get more resolution into this, I will dig in like this and split each one like so to give me a little bit more of a thinner line, which we've got there. We can already see at this resolution that we can do that, although I do have to just smooth this out a little bit. And that's looking a little bit better, but I obviously need a lot more resolution in there. So at any time I can just dig in, and that's where the pinch brush, for example, will come in really handy at that later stage. Okay, let's carry on the body, on the leg. Move that reference over, so we've got these creases here. Again, I think the references kind of exaggerating these folds here quite a bit as it's an AI image, but we will try to emulate some of that folding there, because I suspect this would be quite tight on the skin, this tail, because after all it is just a huge muscle going down here, balancing muscle for the dinosaur. It's going to radiate around. It's got more of an arc towards the leg, and those straighten out as we go towards the tip of the tail. I'm going to reduce the size, see if I can get an extra little fold in this part of the leg here. Might work quite well, and it works nicely with this fold that I have here as well. There is a large fold underneath here which I'll just work on where that ridge is, so we'll keep this ridge here and then work on these as extra folds and details underneath the body here. And as I mentioned before, I don't really know what is underneath the body, so I'm just going to work the brush strokes across. Generally the skin underneath here would be a little bit more, would be less protective, less thick than on the top. This would be able to withstand some scratches and bites, etc. Whereas on the underside and the neck here, softer flesh and more vulnerable for attack. So we're just trying to sort of show that difference in texture of the skin here. Muscles here, and then we've got this bony mass of the knee. We've got this impression of a calf muscle here as well on the back. Let's just leave those little lumps and bumps around the back there. Those I will find interesting when I come back to this later. Let's just work around. So we have a crease in the leg here. So let's continue with this calf muscle here. Working to the heel of the foot. Let's dig in for this tendon again, just a little bit more at this resolution. And we'll dig in on this side as well, just to emphasize that. So as I'm coming down into the feet here, I have a lot of resolution in this foot. So I'm going to be very, very light on the stylus now, because the polygons down at this level are going to be a lot more reactive to detail changes. I do like that area there. I want to try and get that in. So work this around here just to show that volume. Again, just give it that impression. Work on that later. Bring this around here, give it that nice tubular feeling by bringing these strokes around and emphasizing the cylindrical structure of this leg. Looking better. A little bit too thick around here. I think I can just reduce this around. This is a large muscle mass here, and these folds are a little bit too thick on there, so I need to just smooth those out because the skin would be quite tight over there, and the folds would be more towards the knee area and into the joint with the main torso, but this area here would be smoother, so just need to just smooth those out. We do need that kind of detail, but it's not going to be at this pass. So again, at this extra resolution, I'm only going to be tapping around the foot at this point. Bridging here between the toes where we actually put that geometry in for the bridge of the webbing rather between the toes. We're kind of emphasizing that a little bit now. And the underside maybe a little bit less armored, let's use that word, and the skin maybe a little bit softer and more sensitive on the underside. Smooth the light just to see what we have. So you can see by moving the light around, we can identify those areas where we didn't actually make any brush strokes. And let's just very smoothly just go over these areas here to just emphasize the structure underneath this. So, as I mentioned before, with me having quite a lot of geometry in the foot area compared to the body, you can see that we're going quite detailed. So probably in the next pass I will leave this area alone and concentrate more on these larger areas where we don't have as much geometry, because I'm quite happy with the detail level that I've got in here at the moment. And I'm already aware that this is possibly overdoing it a little bit, but I do like this area here, and I'm going to just emphasize that a little bit more. I do like those folds around here, works really nicely, so I'm going to just take that opportunity there when I see it to just move that, just to increase that visibility. it is an important aspect of sculpting to move this light source. So holding shift and just dragging in a free space. It's almost like working your way around the model, but from a single viewpoint. You're working your way and you're seeing the surface of that sculpt and a little bit more detail with a little bit different lighting, and it helps you to refine just as moving around the model does as well. Like so, and a couple of tweaks to and smoothing of this just a little bit more. Again, not too harsh, don't want to destroy that soft underbelly skin that I was working on. So let's just look at this arm a little bit more. Again, this is one of those tight geometry areas here where we have to be very light with our strokes. Just move over, and I'm working on both sides here, so I'm working on the inside of the hand on this side and the outside of the wrist rather on this hand. But because I've got my symmetry on there, I'm effectively working on both. And I'm just going to very lightly go around here. This is definitely a job more for the end of this process rather than this stage. So let's just give them a little bit of a tweak on the skin here, differentiating between the skin and the claws a little bit more. Just going across the fingers. Okay, this area needs a little bit more work, but this is something I'm going to come back to. Let's move our light source back. And of course, let's jump over into the modeling room and look at the work that we've just done on the sculpt layer compared to the mesh, and simply go over to snap and snap that geometry back to the new sculpt mesh underneath. In the next video, we'll create our third pass and increase our resolution to create even more details on the skin. See you next time.